Originally, family used to be the most peaceful place for married couples, offering unconditional love, trust, and support to the parties involved. But today, violence in homes is becoming everyday occurrence, with married people who once professed love assaulting, dehumanizing, and even maiming and killing each other at any slightest provocation. On Searchlight tonight, we will delve into this burning issue with a view to unraveling the causes of marital violence and how it can be prevented. Good evening and welcome to the program. I am Chika Okore. The federal government has dismissed reports circulating in some media outlets claiming that the junior secondary school JSS and senior secondary school SS education have been scrapped. Zanret Dimin reports.
We're just planning on lengthening the number of years that's compulsory from 9 years to 12 years. And before we even get to final decision on this, we will be having a lot of stakeholder engagement.
The Minister of Education setting the record straight, emphasizing that if adopted, the policy would make the entire 12 years of basic education free and compulsory, ultimately enhancing student learning and development.
For school-based management.
In a related development, the minister unveils the reviewed guidelines for the operations of school-based management committees in federal unity colleges across Nigeria. This revision is aimed at strengthening bottom-up education planning and management.
Our membership of the SBMC are really old and are not conversant with the 21st century education management and, of course, operations of the school.
This collaborative framework is vital for tackling the issues faced by secondary schools in Nigeria, such as poor infrastructure, resource shortages, and lack of community involvement.
We want your school to be managed, operated at your own level, with collaboration from all stakeholders in your community. That's the best way we think we can get better results, we can get you educated in a better way. We can create the most enabling environment for you to go to school.
The minister urges all committees to diligently execute their roles in accordance with the stipulated guidelines. In Abuja, Zenred Dingmun, NTA News.
The Federal Road Safety Corps and the National Orientation Agency have agreed to commence an immediate nationwide orientation against fuel scooping, siphoning, and other road vices. The two agencies arrived at this conclusion after an agreed engagement between the Director General NOAA, Lanre Esaone, and the FRSC Corps Marshal at the Corps headquarters in Abuja. Oyeyemi Ajayi is our guide.
The increasing cases of death from scooping of fuel from falling tankers has caused apprehension amongst many. Consequently, President Bola Tinubu directed a massive campaign against these acts.
We are partners.
Responding to the presidential directive, these two agencies have now strategized on the imminent nationwide orientation, which will focus on high-risk areas and communities, emphasizing that the loss of lives and properties due to these vices is unacceptable.
We are also partnering with the Federal Fire Service and the State Fire Services so that we get a spot, we get numbers whereby even if a crash occurs, a fire service can come immediately, condemn the place, and then contaminate the area so that even if the content spill over, it will be contaminated so that it will no longer have value, to those citizens to school. but still.
First and foremost, this product was somebody's investment that has gone bad. The Nigerians of old will be concerned about the person whose money and investment has gone to waste, not trying to take advantage of another person's misfortune. Something has happened to our value system.
The FRSC Commercial Sheikh Mohammed therefore urges Nigerians to support this initiative and join in promoting road safety and preventing loss of lives and property. He entreats eyewitnesses to immediately vacate these scenes before contacting concerned agencies. Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
Experts have identified poverty, eroded values, intolerance, and poor parenting as some of the possible causes of marital violence. Eukaria Ubu in this report takes a look at marital violence causes, implications, and the way forward. The reports.
The alarming rate of marital violence in various homes in recent times is unprecedented in the history of this nation. Cases of husbands chopping off wives' hands, setting wives ablaze, inflicting serious injuries, or maiming their spouses have been making waves in the pages of news dailies, mainstream and social media space. The question that boggles the mind is where it all went wrong that the sanctity of life is thrown to the wind. It is wondered how the undying love couples profess to each other at the altar of God sours at the slightest provocation, and thereby validating the axiom that love is what makes two imperfect halves a perfect whole. Respondents blame the ugly trend on eroded values, intolerance, poverty, poor parenting, and desperation, as well as aggression.
Tolerance is the bedrock of marriage, and in a situation where the husband cannot tolerate or the wife cannot tolerate any longer, it gives birth to any kind of violence, including physical abuse.
Poverty level. When the man can no longer afford, as the head of the family, to bring food, to put food on the table of the family, and the woman takes that responsibility, at times there are suspicions.
Family, as unit of society, mirrors the larger society.
Children that go through violence, that have that knowledge of the sins of violence, or have seen the sins of violence, the point is that at times they are also very, 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 very violent, because they see that violence as the normal, as the new normal, as the in thing, or they are also very, 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 very withdrawn. Let me tell parents, if you are fighting every day and your children are watching that, the girls may say, I don't want to get married again, I don't want to go through what my mother has been going through. Or the man will say, I don't want to get married. Then in your old age, you'll be worried. Why is it that my son or my daughter doesn't want to get married? It's the sins of the past.
On the way forward, experts have advocated effective communication, tolerance, counseling, reorientation, as well as separation.
Jaw is better than war. First, there should be an effective communication, because one of the ways to resolve conflict is effective communication. Because if you don't communicate effectively, you live in assumption. You will assume and I will assume. And when there's assumption, things will never be same. Then again, people should always seek the services of psychologists. When you begin to observe certain things in your family, nothing stops you from seeking the services of psychologists. They will engage you, they will assess the family, and if there are indications that things are going wrong, then as professionals, psychologists will now find a way to resolve the problem before it will degenerate into domestic violence.
It is the view of many that federal government should review the economic policies that resulted the hunger in the land, so as to bring sanity to angry Nigerians and restore peace to Nigerian homes. In Enugu, Eukaria Ubu, NTA News.
We are live on NTA Enugu Channel 8. And now let's go for a quick break, and after which the Searchlight continues.
NTA Enugu live news program Searchlight returns to you soon on Saturdays by 7 p.m.
This is Searchlight, a special news program that treats topical issues by inviting informed individuals to educate our viewers. Joining us in the studio now to explore the topic marital violence with the aim of putting the menace on check is an experienced legal practitioner, a cleric, and advocate of good governance. Among other things she has achieved, she actually contested the governorship position in Enugu State in 2019. Now, let's bring in our guest, Mrs. Nenna Anozie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for actually being here today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, for you to actually throw more light on marital violence, I believe you paid rapt attention to our reports before the break. For you, what are the causes or the contributors to marital violence?
All right, thank you so much. Honestly speaking, a lot of factors are responsible for marital violence. I always tell people, when you are entering into a marriage agreement, go with sincerity. Tell your spouse whatever the person needs to know so that the person will know what he's expecting. But nowadays, you find people going into marriage with all kinds of lies, all kinds of false hope. So when you come into the marriage and all your expectations are dashed, I mean, the man promises the woman, I have this, I have that, or the woman promises the man, I am this, I am that. And when these things are not found in the relationship, I mean, conflict will ensue and violence will take over. So we have a lot of them, issues of trust, issues of lack of finances, poor management of finances, because I tell people, no matter how much you have, if they are well managed, you can actually, live peacefully without having any issues. So poor management of finances, lack of trust, over expectation. You enter into the marriage and you're expecting that this woman, just like how we live here in Nigeria, you have these societal expectations of a woman who will be this and that. And so when these expectations are not met, violence will occur. So these are some of the issues that bring about violence in the home.
All right, trust is a big issue. But let's go this way again. What of the issue of sex, financial instability? Tell me the ways, these factors, sex and financial instability or insecurity, affect couples in their marital home.
Okay, thank you. In my experience as legal practitioner and even as a pastor's wife, I've had a lot of couples come to us to complain that this man is denying me my rights, this woman is denying, and I tell them, God has created this sex in marriage for our enjoyment. So the moment one person begins to feel neglected, something is wrong. It could be as a result of maybe even finance. My husband will tell them that when a man is not financially stable, that man is not reasoning well. So maybe when you are saying, I want sex, the man is saying, I'm not interested. And then when you leave the bulk of the domestic work, all the chores in the house for the woman, she's the one that will go for school run, cook the food, do the dishes, do everything. Then you come to touch the woman, she may be tired and she may not be willing. So issues of unresolved sexual, understanding can lead to conflict, can lead to violence. So, when you are going into the marriage, learn yourselves. What is the, love language of this person? How do I make this person happy? So, if a man is happy, he will happily give in sex. If a woman is happy, she will happily give in sex. So, when there's issue of denial of sex, which is the man's or the woman's conjugal right, it will lead to, and then financial instability. Of course, in Nigeria, things are very beautiful by God's grace, but it's also one of the reasons we are having people angry. An angry man, a hungry man, they say, is an angry man. So when a man is angry, he will be hungry, and he's hungry is an angry man. Sorry. So when this man is not well, has not well managed his emotions, or the woman has not well managed his emotions, he can unleash it to the woman just because there's lack of money. So finance is one of the major causes, if not well managed, because I always tell people, even those people you think are rich, they can as well become like people who are poor. But when your finance is well managed, issues of poverty will go. That little you're earning, plan it well. How, proper planning, you will not have issues.
All right, you said a lot about that. But when we're actually watching that report before this discussion, you heard a woman saying a lot of things about parental upbringing, training of the child, training of both girl and boys, within the family circle. Do you think that past experience has any influence on people when they get married?
That is just what it is. When you are in an abusive marriage and you're raising children in that environment, you are harming those children, because it's either they will grow up being perpetrators or they will grow up being victims. How do I mean? They can be perpetrators when they see, for instance, a man. I usually use a man because most times women are the most vulnerable, right? So when the man always beats the wife, scolds the wife in the presence of the children, the boy child will grow up thinking that is the right thing. And then he turns out to repeat the cycle. He becomes a perpetrator at the end. Then the girl child, who also sees the mother condoning and, living in silence, maybe because of the religious belief that a woman should not talk and all of that, we also grow up getting into a relationship and facing abuse and condoning it, thinking that that is the right thing to do. So it keeps bringing up this cycle of abuse, condoning abuse and all of that, and perpetrating abuse. So it is very, very wrong to raise children from these abusive homes. You need to be careful what you do in the presence of the children. Some of them, I've even had a girl said, because of how the mother was treated, she said she wasn't going to get married. All her friends are girls, and you know what that could mean. So that is a very bad example when you are grooming children in a toxic home where every day is fights, every day is name calling, verbal abuse. Good thing we now have a law that makes all of this, describes these things as violence against persons. So when you are just verbally abusing somebody or physically abusing somebody or economically abusing somebody, because some people use this economic abuse to have control over their victim. You see a husband say, you won't go to work, so stay at home, and you can't even provide for the woman. So that is economic abuse, and it is captured in our law, what we have in Enugu State, and even in Nigeria as a whole, VAP law, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. That law highlights what constitutes abuse and violence, which financial abuse is one of them.
Okay, to prosecute, items in that VAP law, coming down to Enugu State, where it has been domesticated, how can a victim actually approach the courts or approach agencies involved to help the person get justice, especially when you talk about right to work?
All right, thank you. When you feel that your rights of any kind has been abused and under the law, under the VAP law, we have procedures. You can approach the police, you can approach the ministry, maybe Ministry of Justice, you can approach a lawyer. These are people, you can even approach some non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations. They are there working. Somebody like me, that is what I do almost on a daily basis. We receive these reports, we file actions in court, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law. So it's gone are those days you just sit down and you talk to somebody anyhow. And of course, good thing too, you can also compensate the victim. It's no longer just taking somebody to court and the person is sentenced and nothing happens. There's compensation for what you have done. So a victim has rights in that law, and whether you're a man or a woman, because that law says violence against persons. So when we talk about VAP law, most times they misinterpret it to mean for women alone. It's for both gender. So anybody can approach the court and demand that justice be given to serve him or her.
Okay, in an issue like this, when you talk about violence or disturbance in marriages, especially among couples, that the weaker vessel or the victim, let me now use the word victim because it's seen on several occasions where the man is even a victim, not only the woman. So, and most times you notice that the victims, they don't have even the financial capability. So I want to know whether there is any agency or anybody at all in the states that can offer them legal services on pro bono.
Yes, why not? That is what some of these NGOs are doing. Like I belong to African Women Lawyers Association, I belong to FIDA. You know, sometimes we offer these services free of charge, especially to the indigent ones. In my foundation, Nena Nozi Foundation, we have what we call legal clinic for women and girls. They come, though we got a sponsorship for that one, so we don't charge them when they come because we have someone sponsoring us. All right. So of course, justice is expensive, but we have legal aids. We have a lot of. You can even approach go to the Ministry of Justice, approach citizens' rights. They have different departments there. You can still get a lawyer that can do these things pro bono, especially when it has to do with violence. Most times, not just land matter and all of that. All this violence and
that's very beautiful. I believe that our viewers are actually listening. They're watching us. They know how to get justice in case of any disturbance in their marriage or marriages, as the case may be. Now, our special guest and advocate of good governance, fighting human rights, in different fora. Let's take you from another plank. What role do you think that communication, has to play in stabilizing families that are actually passing through turbulent times?
Communication is very key in every relationship, and is a skill that every man and woman in a marital relationship should have. When you communicate properly, not aggressively, because I've also settled some cases during our counseling session. You hear some women say, ask him when he wants to talk to me. Poor communication is very, very dangerous. When you talk out of anger, you talk out of resentment, that person you want to talk to cannot listen. So poor communication can fuel conflict in marriage. Communication with disrespect can fuel, and especially when it has to do with men. Men love respect. So when, as a woman, you are talking to your husband in a very harsh manner, that man can get angry, and it can lead to verbal abuse. It can lead to physical abuse and any form of abuse. So poor communication is one of the, if you like, fire that fuels conflict in homes.
Some people, they don't talk too much, especially the men. When they don't talk too much, they find it difficult to actually approach their spouse. What do you think they can do?
I always tell such men to seek counsel. If you are finding it difficult to do the right thing in your home, no matter what, whether it is sexual, because some people too, they don't even know how to satisfy their spouses. Seek counsel. There's nothing you can't get anywhere. Even thank God for AI.
All right, counseling is the main thing.
Counseling, and then even seeking,
I
reading, and all
hope
of that.
we invite you another day to actually educate our viewers, and that's the much we can take. Thank you, our special guest. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, and that's the much we can take today on Searchlight. Thanks for being part of the broadcast. Watch again next week, same time, same frequency. Goodbye.
From the heart of Africa, where dreams are born and passion is boundless.